Last week, humanity inched closer than ever to catastrophe, according to the Doomsday Clock.
The Doomsday Clock, which is this symbol for when humanity will self-destruct, ticked a second closer to midnight last week. We're currently 89 seconds away from midnight, which is actually the closest that the clock has ever been to saying that we're going to self-destruct.
It's run by the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, which say they removed a second because of global existential threats, including nuclear weapons, climate change, AI, infectious diseases, and conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East.
It also pointed to the spread of misinformation and conspiracy theories as a potent threat multiplier that undermines public discourse about these very issues.
Whoa, that's depressing. I mean, plus last week's plane crash, the recent fires, people all around the world fearing for their safety. It just feels really heavy right now.
Yeah, the world is such a scary place, even for us to just report on. And so people always ask us, aren't you overwhelmed and aren't you exhausted from just kind of all of the negativity everywhere? And today is just one of those days where it kind of got us.
So today we thought we'd lighten the mood with a brand new segment we're calling Not Awful News Roundup. Our backup name was Stories You Missed That Won't Make You Jump Off a Cliff.
You see why we changed it.
Yeah. First up on the Not Awful News docket, scientists have made groundbreaking discoveries about bee behavior by attaching tiny QR codes to their backs to track their movements.
Yes, so teams of electrical engineers and entomologists at Penn State work together to create these April tags that are smaller than the nail on your smallest finger, and they glued these tags to the back of young bees that haven't developed the ability to sting yet.
And so far they've tagged over 32,000 honeybees. And before this, bees were believed to only live for 28 days, but now they're seeing bees live up to 6 weeks.
They also found that some bees can forage outside the hive for 2 hours, even though scientists previously thought that their journeys only lasted a couple minutes.
And for anyone who's missed the bee redemption arc of the last couple years, bees are pollinators, which are critical species to the ecosystem. They pollinate plants and flowers, which is necessary to fertilization and reproduction.
Which is why scientists are really interested in learning more about them, because bee populations are drastically decreasing.
Mabel, this is not awful news.
I know, but sometimes, Wren, the full value of light cannot be appreciated when it's not contrasted with darkness.
That was profound.
Scientists also installed little cameras the size of credit cards on beehives to kind of scan their QR codes and track when they leave.
I never would have thought a QR code could be so light that a bee could carry it, so I love this story.
Next on the list, the FDA approved a new pain medication last week that treats pain from serious injury or surgery, but unlike opioids, can't cause addiction.
It's the first non-addictive prescription pain reliever ever, and we all know how awful the opioid epidemic is, but the numbers are heartbreaking. 85,000 people a year become addicted, and about that same number die from overdoses every year.
So this is a huge win in the medical community. The drug is called suzetrigine, and the science is pretty cool. It works on nerves outside the brain to block pain signals. So since the medication doesn't target inside the brain, it can't cause addiction.
It's expensive for now, $15 per pill, and usually you'd take 2 a day. But I'm hoping now that it's FDA approved, production can amp up, and that will make it more affordable.
And the research for this actually started back in the 90s when doctors discovered that there were 2 nerve channels outside the brain that could block pain. The theory was further confirmed when researchers found a family in Pakistan that could not feel pain at all, and it was confirmed that they had this mutation that blocked that same channel from firing.
And what makes suzetrigine even better is that it doesn't have opioids side effects like the nausea and drowsiness.
And researchers say that they expect it to be the first of a generation of more powerful non-addictive drugs to relieve pain.
Good news for art lovers. The Louvre Museum is moving the Mona Lisa to her own room. And honestly, good for her. She's 500 years old. It's about time.
And she deserves it because 80% of people that visit the Louvre go just to see the Mona Lisa, and it creates a bit of a crowd control headache for people. So having her own room will create better conditions and allow more people to see her.
Yeah, right now 9 million people visit the Louvre every year, and they're hoping to get that up to 12 million a year.
Yeah, President Macron announced last week that this is a part of a larger plan to expand and renovate the Louvre, which is obviously the world's largest and most visited museum.
Well, unfortunately for us non-EU citizens, Macron said they're going to pay for the expansion by raising ticket prices starting in 2026. And once Mona Lisa does have her own room, you'll have to buy a separate ticket to see her.
Ugh, that's rough.
I know, I guess we better snap our Mona selfies now.
Oh my God, I have one from last summer. Not the most flattering.
Okay, I doubt it's that bad.
It's not good though.
Well, it's okay because we all have cringy Paris pictures.
This is my favorite picture of Wren ever. So when we first became friends, I did that classic thing where I like went through her Instagram and like commented embarrassing things on her old pictures. And I came across this one and it wins everything. Wren, explain it to them.
Okay, so it's a close-up of my face wearing a straw hat with the Eiffel Tower in the background. And the caption is, "Hi, Eiffel Tower, you're beautiful."
Our next story has some dark undertones, but it's still a positive. So the Japanese government installed blue lights in many of its train stations, which has reduced suicides in those stations by 84%.
And they chose blue since it's a calming color. It's associated with the sky and the sea. They hoped it would soothe anyone who might be distressed. And they installed these special lights above the platforms in 29 stations.
And the lights hang at the end of the platforms, which are usually the most isolated areas and where people are most likely to throw themselves in front of a speeding train. So these blue lights are brighter than standard bulbs and bathe the platform in blue.
And I wouldn't have thought something so superficial like lighting could make an impact, but I guess researchers have found that suicides on Japanese railways increase after several days of bad weather. So bright spaces must be really important psychologically.
Yeah, it's interesting that the weather influences railway suicides specifically, but it's good that it's an easy fix because installing blue lights is really cheap. East Japan Railway spent only $165,000 for all of those special lights, so hopefully the rest of the world can follow this model.
Continuing our not awful news, the giant trees of the Amazon are now protected. So Brazil established the Giant Trees of the Amazon State Park, which spans nearly 1.4 million acres, to protect a rare type of tropical forest with extremely tall trees.
The trees are called the Dinesia excelsa and are considered the tallest trees in the tropical Americas. They're almost 300 feet, which is insane. And the trees in the park are 400 to 600 years old.
Literally everything we learned about these trees is crazy. Their carbon stock is the equivalent of 500 average-sized trees. So they're a huge benefit to the environment.
You've probably heard this headline, but it's good news, so we had to add it to the list. The FDA finally banned red dye number 3 in food, beverages, and drugs more than 30 years after scientists discovered its links to cancer.
Yeah, I mean, no rush. It's literally synthetic, so it's made from petroleum, and it's designed to give food and beverages that cherry red color.
Apparently, it's been banned in cosmetics and topical drugs for 35 years, but was still allowed in food and drugs that we ingest. I don't know why.
Well, the banning came after numerous studies of the detrimental effects of the dye, and it's already been banned in California, the EU, Japan, and Australia.
These companies have a few years to reformulate their products, so some childhood favorites are going to look really different soon.
Yes, a lot of the sweets, like Fruit by the Foot Starburst, Fruit Cocktail Cherries, Double Bubble, Original Twist Bubblegum, and Pez Candy.
And interestingly, also a lot of non-candy things like Morningstar Bacon Strips, Mini Muffins, and Betty Crocker Mashed Potatoes.
Literally, why is it in there?
Why is it red?
Okay. Shifting gears, our next story is a glimmer of hope in a pretty dark place. So the Taliban has conditionally agreed to allow Afghan girls to pursue graduate, postgraduate, and PhDs in Pakistan.
Pakistan said it will fully fund up to 2,000 Afghan students, and the government is already conducting entrance exams. So already 21,000 students have applied, 5,000 of them which are women.
And last Saturday was the entrance exams, and seeing women in Afghanistan sit and take these tests was really a beautiful sight.
And obviously it's hard to call this good news in the face of so much injustice that's happening there. The Taliban has obviously been in control of Afghanistan for 3.5 years, and slowly women's rights have just disappeared over there. They can't show their faces in public. Girls can't go to school past the age of 12. The UN has even called it a gender apartheid. But there is a chance now for some women to access what the rest of the world sees as a human right.
Of course, they still need their male guardians to accompany them, but it's a start, and there's not a lot of hopeful news that comes out of Afghanistan. So we'll take the little wins when we can.
For our last story, we're fusing sci-fi with reality. So biotech company Colossal Biosciences is resurrecting the extinct woolly mammoth.
That is a wild idea since mammoths went extinct 4,000 years ago. But they hope by reintroducing mammoths to Arctic environments, they can trample and compress snow layers, which would reduce heat transfer to the soil and slow permafrost melt, which is a major source of methane emissions.
The company has already secured $200 million in funding, and the process of this resurrection starts by extracting DNA from preserved woolly mammoths. And then scientists will use CRISPR, which is this like crazy cool gene editing tool, to splice the mammoth genes into the genome of an Asian elephant. And then they'll create a hybrid embryo.
It's literally Jurassic Park when they use the frog DNA to complete the dinosaurs.
We use the complete DNA of a frog to fill in the holes and complete the code. And now we can make a baby dinosaur.
The hybrid mammoth embryo would be then carried by a surrogate elephant or a synthetic womb, and it will exhibit all the classic mammoth traits like long fur, subcutaneous fat, and cold tolerance.
And it's not just woolly mammoths. The company is also looking to bring back like the dodo bird and Tasmanian tiger, which is so cool. It's also spearheading the new field of de-extinction that's trying to bring back animals to reshape ecosystems.
On that note, we're gonna go watch Ice Age. So that was your first Not Awful News Roundup.